Hello, and welcome to Book of the Mouse Club, episode 114, Thursday, May 29th, 2025.
Morning, monsieur.
Where are you off to?
The bookshop. I just finished the most wonderful story about a beanstalk and an ogre and...
That's nice. Marie! The baguettes! Hurry up!
I'm sorry, but how can one possibly pay attention to a book with no pictures in it?
My dear child, there are a great many good books in this world without pictures.
I almost bounced clear out of the book. Some bouncing, huh?
Come home or make myself known.
J. Thaddeus Turtle, Esquire. Have you never met him? You will find his story in this delightful little book, The Wind and the Willows.
I've come to return the book I borrowed.
Finished already?
Oh, I couldn't put it down. Have you got anything new?
Welcome back. I'm your host, Courtney, and I'm joined, as always, by the Statler to my Waldorf, my lovely co-host, Emily.
Hi-ho, listeners. It's time to play the music and light the lights to congratulate the class of 2025 on the Book of the Mouse Club tonight. Welcome to our most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, Muppet-ational episode.
Yes, there's so much to celebrate this month. We've selected Before You Leap, A Frog's Eye View of Life's Greatest Lessons by Kermit the Frog for a number of reasons. In its recent re-release, it feels timely as the Muppets just celebrated their 70th anniversary on May 9th, 2025. And that marks the debut of Kermit the Frog and the first Muppet characters in Jim Henson's Sam and Friends in the DC area. During this time, Jim was a student at University of Maryland. Speaking of which, you may have seen on our socials that Kermit the Frog was the commencement speaker at our alma mater, University of Maryland, last Thursday, May 22nd. So before we jump into the book, I just thought it would be nice to reminisce a little bit. What do you remember about our University of Maryland commencement in 2014?
So I remember that main commencement was long. Did you go to main commencement?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so for folks who don't know, University of Maryland, while not the largest school in the country, our graduating class, I think the freshman class alone was close to 5,000 students. And main commencement allows anyone who's graduating, so that's seniors for bachelor degrees, that's masters, doctorates, people from the summer or winter semesters who didn't get to walk. So like there can be a lot of people. I was a senior marshal, so I had the little senior marshal medal. So I did get to walk in early, and I remember being relieved that I got to sit sooner than everyone else because I was at the front with like the first three rows of people who were representing their schools. So I was representing the College of Arts and Humanities, which shout out to both of us being part of RHU. So I remember that, and I just remember it being long. We're going to talk about the commencement speaker we had.
Yeah, I do want to clarify they did not read off all 5,000 names. This is just kind of a recognition, and you stand as a college and they kind of honor each college, but then you had a separate commencement where you walked on stage, and that was much smaller. While you and I were both in arts and humanities, I was an English major and we had our own English ceremony. I'm assuming you did that for either education or history or both?
I did for history. Okay. Education, I was in a master's program, and I would have had to wait since I was an August graduate for my education master's. I would have had to wait till December, and it was on a school day because like colleges end school for this winter semester on a weekday in December when I'm still teaching. So I didn't actually ever walk for my master's.
On your Disney College program at that time. So
that's true.
I
was in Florida actually at that time. But yeah, so like main commencement for University of Maryland, and I'm sure this is similar for many colleges, is kind of the kickoff of all of the graduation stuff for the rest of the week. Because it takes like 2 or 3 days for everyone to graduate across all the colleges because there's only so many venues that fit that many students. So I remember just being big. My parents were all about it. My mom always says that graduation is not for us, it's for the parents. I think it's for both. It's for everybody. But she was 100% against me ever skipping even main commencement. Like a lot of people choose to only go to the one where they actually walk across the stage with their name read. And my mom was like, "Oh no, you will go to both."
Yeah, I went to both.
Yeah, I liked it. What do you remember about commencement that day for you?
Our speaker was Martin O'Malley, who was the
Yes.
governor of Maryland at the time, and I believe up for re-election. Does
It
that
was an
sound right?
election year.
Yeah, like I don't have a problem with Martin O'Malley personally, but I don't know. I feel like the class before us got Cal Ripken Jr., if I
Yep.
remember. Yeah. So I can be honest, I don't even remember what Martin O'Malley said to us. Do you?
No. No, I just remember thinking like it was very, standard commencement-y things. But I do remember like this is an election speech. Like it
Yeah.
very much rang election speech to me. So I do remember that vibe, even though I don't remember any particular message he had. I just remember chuckling, being like, he's running an election in a couple months. This makes sense.
Did he win?
I think so. I
Okay,
don't
that
remember.
sounds right. I know he then went for a bid for presidency in 2016, so I'm assuming he
I just
won.
remember that he was running for governor.
Yeah, I think to
And I
be
was like, as the
reelected.
flagship university of the state, like, you should already be here. Like, I remember that being like, they're like, special guest. I'm like, it's not that special when he
Well,
should be
the
here
I
anyway.
joked watching the Kermit the Frog live stream because they had a special message from the current governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, and I was like, oh well, they got the governor anyway. So
Right, like, as they should for any state university or university. Like, that's should be, a video message or even showing up in person to the ones
yeah.
that you can. Like, to me, that seems like it should be part of the duties anyway. So I just remember being like, okay, cool. Now, Courtney, you are also a member of the class of 2025 and graduated last week. What was it like for you to be back in that graduate seat 10 years later?
Yeah, so I was back in Maryland, but not at the University of Maryland. I'm starting to second guess what I did as my my graduate program there. But it was nice. I graduated from the Maryland Institute College of Art with a master's in data analytics and visualization. I did wrap up my program in December of 2024, but we are considered the class of 2025 because Micah only does commencement once a year. So it was a little weird because I feel like you know, just over 10 years ago, like we had finished all of our finals and then you went right into the celebration
Yeah.
of commencement, whereas like I've been done with my capstone and had my diploma mailed to me early this year. But I'm glad that I went back in person, being from the Baltimore area. It really was a chance to see family, see friends. You included and celebrate that accomplishment. But as far as being in the commencement seat, it is often long to sit there. This one was just, I would think, the more traditional commencement, there was only one. So we had our speakers, but we also, everyone processed across the stage. Though it was just graduate, there was an undergraduate commencement later that afternoon. So I was, of
Okay.
course, not in attendance for that. But yeah, it was nice to celebrate that milestone. So this all felt very timely. What would you say you want from a commencement speech?
So, as a high school teacher, I do go to a commencement every year.
Oh,
That's part of my job. So, I've been going to commencement since 2015, 2016, actually, when I started teaching. So, you hear a lot of these speeches, and I don't know, like, what I want out of a commencement speech is I do want students' work to be acknowledged. I do want the speech to be relatable. Um, but I also want it to be specific. I feel like if you get too way down in platitudes and cliches, um, it just kind of loses its touch a little bit. Like it could be anyone up there. So when they talk about hard work, like give specific examples or call out things that happened in the year that like people on campus who went to that school
yeah.
would know. Like you should make it really relatable and personal to the graduating class. Um, or like celebrities who come in when they can actually talk about their work and their life experience. Like the more specific it is, I think it's better. Um, but going to so many, I do see how it's like hard every year to have something
Something
new to say
fresh.
when you do
Yeah.
this every single year. Even if it's different people, like the sentiment is the same. It's a ritual we do multiple times a year every year. What did you want going into your
I
speech?
don't want the speech to be too long. I
Fair.
don't know. I
Yeah.
just don't want to be sitting there forever. And I believe Kermit the Frogs was just under 15 minutes. And I would say that's perfect for someone of that stature.
Yeah.
You when you get a big name to come in for commencement, you got to find that balance of like, okay, I do want to hear from this person, but it doesn't need to be too long. I believe the person who spoke at my graduation, who was just a member of the arts community in Baltimore, his was probably a little under 10, and I think that was
Nice.
appropriate for not no shade to this guy, but like not being someone of name recognition, but had a nice message.
Yeah, I feel like you want to be inspired, but you do also want to keep it moving. It's like going to church. Like, I want to be there for the experience and for the community or whatever someone gets out of going to that ritual that's different for everybody. But at the same time, there's a moment where you're like, can we keep going? Or again, how many times can you say the same thing? Like, it can be very easy to get repetitive if you go too long.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this was a fun stroll down memory lane. Thank you for indulging us, listeners. I know you are here for the Muppets. Let's get into that. And Emily, can you tell me what you found about Before You Leap?
Yeah, so I do want to thank the contributors to Muppet Wiki for all this information. This was the best actually like summary of all the different editions I could find. It's actually really difficult sometimes to find information about books when they're not like classics that have been heavily studied or
Yeah.
something. So thank you to Muppet Wiki and all the contributors and fans who helped track Muppet history. So the book we read for this episode is actually the third edition of Kermit's book. The first edition of Before You Leap, written by Kermit the Frog, with editorial help quote, from his good friend and Muppet writer Jim Lewis, was first published in 2006 by the publisher Meredith Books. This first edition was 224 pages with two sections. The first part of the book is Kermit's telling of the Muppet history and their story, followed by his life advice in part two of his book. The two subsequent editions are going to continue to follow this format, and the book we're going to discuss today does the same thing. Kermit's book, though, was a long time in the making. I thought this was a cool little Easter egg. A Sesame Street sketch from the early 1980s featured Kermit at home, shows Kermit at a typewriter brainstorming ideas for a book that he wants to write. And one of the titles he comes up with is It's a Frog's Life by K the F. So Kermit the Frog. And that was part of the original working title when they were putting this book together. So since the 80s, Kermit has had wanted to share his wisdom and life's lessons with us. The book's original dedication, I thought this was interesting because the dedication for the book we read is slightly different. So the original dedication reads, quote, for Jim Henson, who first held me up for the world to see, and for the lovers, the dreamers, and you, end quote. Kermit did a lot of press for this book in 2006, including sit-downs with Live with Regis and Kelly, MTV News. Now that
Wow.
is a throwback. Good Morning America, and you can find clips of this press tour on the Muppet Wiki page, as well as on YouTube. Fascinating, just seeing the type of press. And we're seeing that come back a little bit. He did a lot of press for after he was announced for commencement speaker. He did a lot
Yeah.
of things, like a
Just
lot
on
of news
NBC
stations.
News and University of Maryland shared like a reel as a sit down with him. So
Yeah.
it's always fun. I like watching some of the Muppet press clips, like when a movie is out. There's some fun ones out there with Ricky Gervais and I guess, Kermit's nemesis Constantine
hmm
for Muppets Most Wanted. Some of those make me laugh.
Yeah, so there's some reminiscence here as we're getting through the different editions. The second edition came out November 6, 2012, and was published by Little Brown Books for young readers. This edition was abridged or had removed some of the original chapters of the book. Mentions of Sesame Street, the original publisher Meredith Books, and the Walt Disney Company were shortened or removed altogether. So we do see, depending on who's publishing, what gets included, what doesn't. Um, and there were some new added photos. The cover art does change all three times between all three books. It's the same idea. It's Kermit in a white background, but like how he's sitting or posing changes. The font for the covers change. So we did get some new cover art, and they did have a new section called New Tips from Kermit, so they were acknowledging it was a new edition. Now, for the 70th anniversary, of the Muppets, Kermit's book was published for a third time by Hyperion Avenue. And this is the edition that we are reviewing on the episode today. This book was released on April 22nd, 2025, and has been reduced to 192 pages since the original edition. This book's dedication does not include Jim Henson and is only dedicated to us, the lovers and dreamers. Additionally, the Muppet history is updated to include the most recent films in the Muppet Movie Library, Muppet Vision 3D, the opening of Pizza Rizzo, as well as the latest Muppet streaming programs on Disney Plus and primetime TV shows. Being published by a Walt Disney Publishing imprint does mean that the Walt Disney Company, Walt Disney World, and other properties are back to being more prominently mentioned in the book. The book also has a new cover, again featuring this time almost a full body of Kermit, whereas the others mostly focused on like a bust. Um, but what I loved about it is that it has his signature. As someone who used to work in entertainment, I love autographs. So I like that his autograph is included on this book, which the other two editions don't have. Um, but if you're a fan of audiobooks, there is an audiobook coming out with Kermit
Ooh.
narrating his book. The release date has been changed a few times. Last I see now is that it should be in June of 2025. The one thing I read did say it was exclusive to Audible.
Okay.
So we'll see if maybe that's something that down the line will make it onto other platforms where people get audiobooks like libraries. But there is a narrated version coming from Kermit himself. And if you would like the full breakdown of all those differences between the three editions, I do suggest the Muppet Wiki page on Before You Leap. And before I close up about this, I forgot to mention Kermit has actually written more than
Oh,
just
really?
this book. It is not the first book written by Kermit. Other books written by Kermit include Kermit's Garden of Verses in 1982, For Every Child, A Better World in 1993, and One Frog Can Make a Difference, Kermit's Guide to Life in the 90s in 1993. So
I like
he
to
has
track that
more.
one down.
Yeah, that sounds fun, particularly the 90s.
Yeah.
So Kermit has had a long
The
author
prolific author.
career
Yeah.
besides just being the host that we know him to be for the Muppets. He's been wanting to share life's lessons and mentorship to all of us.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that overview. I'm glad you were able to find such a rich resource to really break down the difference. I was aware this was a republishing, and I believe Kermit mentions that himself within the text, but really nice to know, how many pages the original was and different things that have been added
Yeah, it's
along the
definitely
way.
changed. I thought this was the second republishing. I didn't realize it was third.
Yeah. Overall, though, what were your thoughts about the book?
I thought it was really sweet. Like, if you're a Muppet fan, you're gonna get what you want out of this. Especially if you're a Muppet fan, like I've read it in the voices in my head of the different Muppets. So like if you know these characters, the little dad jokes and Fozzie-isms and Statler and Waldorf who jump in some text bubbles, like that stuff stands out and you get what you want out of it. And it's inspirational and I do think very timely for graduation season.
I'd agree. I think this could become, if it remains in print, a perennial favorite, much like Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr.
Yeah.
Seuss. It's that type of book that you gift to someone, they might pick up here or there. Also fitting for a retirement. There is some advice
Mhm.
that lean to that. I think if you're just in a season of change, or if you're just a Muppet fan, this is a book that's worth picking up.
So, like I said, similar to all the other editions, and especially the first one, it has two parts. And chapters 1 through 3 is Kermit telling the Muppet story. As people who have read a lot about Muppet history, what did you think about this summary coming from Kermit's voice?
It's interesting. I feel like this is the first time I really read something from Kermit's point of view. I'm very familiar with the history of the Muppets. It's a big part of the campus culture at University of Maryland. There's exhibits in the libraries. There's a statue of
Hmm.
Jim Henson and Kermit, which I will be sharing on our Instagram, as you so wonderfully took a picture of the book with it. And we've read Jim Henson's biography. Um, this runs contrary to that. I think they have some humble beginnings for each of them. But very interesting to me to hear from Kermit's point of view, his years in the swamp and his family and how he, maybe came to meet Jim Henson
Yeah.
versus the creation of Kermit.
Yeah, very much they are not in their puppet personas, although They do throw the nods and like the hand in all of my
Yes, that's what I was
he has a
thinking
hand in
of.
my history. He has a hand in everything I ever did. So like there's a wink wink nudge nudge, but they don't isn't there one Muppet Show episode where like they're told they're puppets and they like freak out?
Oh gosh, there's so many Muppet Show
I remember seeing
episodes.
a clip
I
of
wouldn't be
that,
surprised.
or like they
That's
kind of break
fun.
the fourth wall and they're like, "Who are these people down here?"
Well, and to be fair, I think the Muppets often break the fourth
Yeah, they
wall.
do.
One of my favorite jokes in the 2011 The Muppets is when the Tex Richmond, the villain, reveals the clause in the contract, and then Statler and Waldorf are like, boy, that sounds like an important plot device. Like that one gets me every time. So it is a weird balance within the book of like you said, wink wink nudge nudge, acknowledging that they're puppets, but also having this deeper Kermit lore of other
Yeah.
amphibians like Albert Frogstein
So
and
that's new to this edition
oh fun.
compared to the other two. That was one of the changes, that he has a much more extensive family tree
Yeah.
than was previously mentioned.
I think you get some of that in like the Muppets Walt Disney World special from the early 1990s. Like we see his family in the swamp, and that's part of the plot to that. But to really get deeper into that was fun for me. It was a little bit of a suspension of disbelief as a Muppet fan. Be like, all right, this is how Kermit's telling it. I'm choosing to accept that these are the facts of Kermit's life.
Yeah, was there any nods in there? One that really stood out to me. I really like that he talked about Rolf.
Yeah,
Rolf got a
getting his
moment.
shout out to Rolf, one of my favorite Muppets, who really did make it big first on the Jimmy Dean show. Yes, that Jimmy Dean of breakfast sandwich fame. That they talk about how like Rolf had to adjust to fame and they learn from him. So I would say it is still very much grounded in the factual history of the Muppets, but blends it with this, I keep calling it lore, but I feel like that's what it
Yeah,
is.
I would say though that if you're someone who's like, I want to learn more about the Muppets, like this isn't where you should go to just get the history. It's gonna be very glossed over. Um, I did speed read through it just because I was like, I know this, I know this, I know this. But I did like how they mentioned Sam and Friends. He did mention Rolf, which I think often gets overlooked as like the first big Muppet because we immediately go to Kermit. Like Kermit took a bit to take off
Right.
as a
They
character.
attribute, Kermit's quote unquote birth and his premiere in Sam and Friends is 1955. That is the 70th anniversary we're celebrating, but he wasn't called Kermit then. Like I feel like Rolf was really like the first named Muppet to rise to prominence.
Yeah, and I did like that they kind of tongue in cheek, for the Muppet movie. He mentioned like we had to go to England because,
Yes.
money,
And
and
pitching a TV
options.
show.
And when they pitched, yeah, the Muppet Show, and they're like, "What do you mean prime time?" And then it became what it is. So I do like that those things were there, but because I think we know the history so well, I think that hit different. Whereas if you're someone who is going to read this for the first time and this is your first introduction to the history part of the Muppets and not just pop culture knowing who they are, I don't know if that tongue in cheek there would have resonated the same way.
Yeah, knowing it so well, did you learn anything new from this summary?
Nothing new. I kept marking the spaces. Out of the two of us, I'm the person who uses all the tabs.
You do.
So I started marking where like Muppet history or Kermit things were versus like advice. And it is mostly advice, and it is very clear like what section of the book was the Muppet history because all my green tabs were on one side of the book and all the blue tabs for advice were on the other side of the book. So I do visually see that divide. But nothing really new stood out to me when it came to history. I do like that they do bring the updated stuff that he's part of. He makes a mention of like, wow, I became a meme, and it's him and Constantine with the hood, which like everyone's like the dark side meme. So I did like that as a history. It wasn't new to me as a new knowledge, but it's a new acknowledgement of Muppets in modern day, which I think is new. Like a lot of history hasn't really talked about them as the newer pop culture icons that they are now, like with memes and reels and streaming.
No, I think that's a fair point, and I'd agree. I think the newer things to me were more of this Kermit backstory that I think this, other than the previous editions, is really like the first time as a Muppet fan that I was exposed to the deeper elements of that.
So I found one that I liked. Again, those things that like if you're in the know, you know. So if you've seen the Muppet movie, you would know there's this part in 135. He's in the chapter dealing with fame and good fortune, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Um, but being true to yourself, and he's like, I'm not big, I'm not glamorous. In fact, when I travel, I actually prefer to fly cargo. And if you know the movie, you know what that means. He's like, there's more legroom and more fresh air for in-flight entertainment as we go through people's luggage. And so, like, if you know, you know. So I do
Yes.
like that there is a level here for people who are big Muppet fans, that you'll find those inside jokes. Um, but I don't think it's totally lost on people who might be newer to Muppets or not as into like 1970s Muppets.
That's fair.
Do you think this was necessary though for a book about advice? Did we need all this context? 3 chapters worth.
Yeah, that it was kind of an unconventional choice, but I think if you're targeting this book to Muppet fans, it does lend it some pathos, some authority on Kermit's background. And it does ground you in a way for things that he tackles later. Like I think if you just jumped in to the advice and you didn't have his quote history, um,
Hmm.
to like rely on the chapter about fame and like making friends, it does harken back to things that happened to him in this first half of the book. Do you agree?
I think so. I think it could have been shorter. Like, I don't think we needed all of like as much fun as maybe the ancestry is of him coming from the swamps and the tadpole. Like, I don't think I needed to know his relation, what were the celebrity uh
Real Frogtra.
yeah, like I don't know if I needed that. Like it was funny, it was cute, but I don't think you needed it. I think he could have just talked about his, you know, after I left the swamp, I met Jim. Here are the things we've done over 70 years. I don't know if I needed 3 chapters worth of detail, um, but I don't think it took away from the book too much. So moving into the second half, the rest of the book is Kermit. Um, Muppets are 70 years old. They do have some staying power. So what do you think gives the Muppets, maybe even particularly Kermit, authority to give us advice on life?
Well, certainly their longevity, as you just referenced, but I think just the diversity of the characters and the backgrounds associated with them. While this is very much Kermit's book, the other Muppets do have chances to shine in fun ways throughout the book. Miss Piggy kind of takes over for a portion of a chapter. There's fun little like illustrations of the Muppets and their thoughts on different things that he's saying. Like I'm on page 72 just flipping through here and Gonzo's chiming in. So there's a little basically an insert with an illustrated Gonzo and his advice: that which doesn't kill us makes us stronger, even as it exponentially increases our health insurance premiums. So little fun things that felt very true to each Muppet's personality. Statler and Waldorf are even heckling throughout the book, and I would expect nothing less from them.
I agree. And I think kind of like when you hear from, if we're putting this in the frame of a commencement speaker, since that's kind of the framework we came in for this book, um, not only having longevity, but again, that diversity of experiences as well. So not only are the Muppets a diverse group, but he's been on TV, he's done hosting, he's done movies, but he's done streaming, but he's done pop culture. Like he's been everywhere. And so when you're asking for someone for that big life advice, I think that works in his favor as well. That not only are they just an institution of pop culture, but they've gone beyond just one genre of what they're involved in, which I think gives them a lot of access points to different people as well. And I think also they're humorous. Like you can't be mad at the Muppets.
No.
Like I don't think there's anything, or maybe I'm biased, but like if someone's like Kermit the Frog is going to talk to you, like I don't know anyone who's going to be mad about that. So just the genuineness of who they are as a brand, as a cast, as the Muppets, I think there's just this innate trust in them that you know that they can't hurt you. So you are willing to listen to them. And I think that longevity, like you said, that the Muppets have created, we're willing to listen, even if it's a little silly and heckly and bad comedy from Fozzie. But like we're willing to listen because they have that trust over so many years.
Did you have an advice chapter that you enjoyed the most?
I really enjoyed all their chapters about friendship.
Hmm.
Um,
Get better with friends.
yeah, that one, the Fozzie Fridays with Fozzie at the end. I think Fridays with Fozzie is one that really stood out to me just because being in my 30s, and this is something that I've seen different stages of my friends group go through, it's really hard, particularly after college, to keep up with your friends. And I was talking about this actually recently with some of my seniors who are graduating high school, and they're all going to different colleges and doing different things, and they are worried about how are we going to maintain our friendship and our traditions that we've built as like it will take more effort. You're not going to be in the same place at the same time conveniently. And then even after college, being in the same place of all people who are the same age as you or in the same stage as life, like going into a workplace that has a wider range of people who are in wider ranges of life stages, it can be harder to keep up with people, to make new friends. So I really like the Fridays with Fozzie of like you have to be very intentional with maintaining the friendships you want to maintain. And it does go with both parties, but I thought that was really poignant for him to point out.
Yeah, that was a unique take on their friendship. My favorite was actually the first part of advice, using dreams to set goals. Just the idea of dreams, the dedication is for the lovers, the dreamers, and youth. I
Hmm.
feel like that's a big part of Kermit's brand, but it was tackled nicely in that it approached it in terms of your inner dreams, being true to yourself, your outer dreams, big dreams being your ambitions, your strategy, the little dreams that get you there, and even your insecurities, faltering dreams, your preparations, revised dreams, and wrapping up with your reward, realized dreams. So just different, stages of dreaming, looking to accomplishing goals sets us up well for the subsequent chapters that follow.
Yeah. I also like the inner tadpole. Kind of reminded me of
Yeah.
Walt Disney a little bit. There's a child in all of us. Disneyland is for the young and the young at heart. I think Kermit has a lot of those same sentiments that, be in touch with the things that make you happy. It's okay to be childlike, um, because life is life, and you're gonna need those things to bring you joy and help you get through it. Did you have a favorite Muppet advice, guest Muppet who popped in?
I mean, it was just great to hear from all of them, but I think Piggy comes through the strongest because she does literally take over a chapter, and I would expect nothing less
Yes.
from Miss Piggy. But there's some unexpected Muppets in there, like Sergeant Floyd Pepper gets a moment to give advice. So chances are, if you have a favorite Muppet, they probably show up in here at least once, unless you're like going really deep. But yeah,
Yeah, New Zealand was a good surprise for me. Like I don't think our fish friend gets a lot of love.
no.
He's always there, but like I don't think a lot of people know his name. I don't think a lot of people resonate with like who he is maybe as a character other than comic relief. So I kind of like that he got a shout out also in the love chapter. New Zealand and his boomerang fish soulmates. He's so committed. He's really dedicated to throwing fish and having them return. It's variety acted skill. It's a hobby. It's just fundamentally who he is, and he just loves who he loves
Yeah.
and is unapologetic about it. And I thought that was a really nice example for a Muppet that maybe we don't hear from as much.
Was there any advice that you would not take from the Muppets?
So the money chapter, it was a lot of tongue in cheek. I thought there were some clever, like Fozzie-ish type isms in there, but nothing in there actually gave you advice about money. And
Probably for
for
legal reasons.
probably for legal reasons for
Joe the
sure.
legal weasel showed up and said no.
And also for, people who stay at the Happiness Hotel and um, travel by cargo. Maybe some good lessons in there of like how to save money on things that you're willing to, compromise and prioritize. But yeah, not too much in that chapter that stood out to me as like anything inspirational or to take away from that. Was there any for you that you were like, maybe not the Muppets for this one?
Yeah, no, I was with you on the Muppet the money chapter. Um, I think, that was more there for a comedic approach. Whereas I feel like there was profound advice throughout the
Yeah.
book elsewhere. There's a
I
chapter dealing with fame, celebrity, and people you do not like. And this is the one that I was alluding to. Both Kermit and Miss Piggy offer their approach to those situations. Would you say you're more of a Kermit or a Miss Piggy?
I am definitely a Kermit. Um, I'm not a fan of confrontation. Um, I'm more likely to maybe it's also sometimes the teacher in me of like, let's sit down and talk it out and hear all perspectives before, etc. Or like Kermit, I'm probably more likely. So it's talking also about fame that he gave an example of like if paparazzi just keep like coming at you, he's like, I'm likely to be like, I'll take a picture and then like politely figure out a way out of it. Whereas Miss Piggy is very much more like, this is my time, go away, set my boundaries and be assertive about my boundaries. And I think sometimes, as much as some of her advice comes off, in very Miss Piggy fashion, bold, blunt,
She's a
um,
diva.
diva-ish. I do think sometimes I could be more like Miss Piggy and assertive in what I want in my boundaries. And I think there are some situations where maybe Miss Piggy's approach might be slightly better than Kermit's. But I think
Yeah,
overall I'm a
there's
Kermit.
advice to be found in both, but we already know we're the same person, so I would say we are both Kermits.
Yeah, like the paparazzi one, Kermit's like, I let them take as many pictures as they want, and I go in and I turn my dinner. Admittedly, this will take a lot of time, and some restaurants have closed while I was accommodating the press and I didn't get dinner. But he's like, it's okay. And Miss Piggy's like, act surprised, shocked, a series of, oh my, briefly go for a wardrobe change, and then like, make your exit very dramatically. Um, I wish I had that kind of level of confidence. Maybe I need to work on my Miss Piggy, but I am definitely a Kermit. But why we're talking about this book has to do mostly with commencement, which I do want readers to know, like this was on our radar before he was announced as the speaker. We were like, oh, he's republishing a book. We like Muppets. Let's put it on the TBR. But then as soon as they announced that he was going to be their commencement speaker, we're like, perfect. This is going to be
Jumped
our
right to the
May.
top.
It moved to the May book slot. So you and I both tuned in over YouTube. Thank you, University of Maryland, for showing Commencement. What were your overall thoughts?
I really enjoyed it. It was such a delight. His little regalia, again, there are pictures
So
on our
cute.
Instagram with his little like doctorate ensemble. I'm obsessed. I would love a plush of that, though I know that's very niche. I thought it was a delight from the moment they announced it, and I guess my personal brand is strong because I had so many people reach out to me saying, "Did you see this?" Both them knowing one that I'm a Muppet fan, but also that is my undergraduate alma mater. So it was announced what back in April, early April,
Yeah.
to finally get to see it. I'm glad that they had done a live stream for it.
You were the first person to text me. You weren't the only person, but you were the first person to
I
text
was
me.
texting you when they were like teasing on the University of Maryland social handles
Yeah.
with like the Kermit Pantone shade of green and then just an illustration of his eyes. And I was like, what is going on? Then we did think, oh, you know what? Maybe it's commencement. And then an hour later, our suspicions were confirmed.
And then I had a student. So when I was texting you, I remember this. It was my lunch period, and I have a group of students who just graduated as class of 2025, who normally eat lunch in my classroom, and they know I'm a big Disney fan. A couple of them are Disney families as well. And she's like, Kermit the Frog is going to be commencement speaker. Like at the same time that you texted me, she immediately needed to tell me as well. Um, so that was cool that so many people were into it, especially in this area. I really enjoyed watching how all the graduates were all about it. There were people with plushes, there were people who made t-shirts, there were people who you could tell knew all the words to Rainbow Connection without having to read the teleprompter screen.
It's interesting you being in Maryland as a teacher now. Like, of course, local news, but it really did make national
Yeah.
news. Like I was surprised by some of the people who reached out to me because they happened to see it on like Good Morning America or other national outlets that picked it up. And I was like, "Oh, this is a big deal." I mean, it
I
was
think,
personally a big deal to me already, but like to see how
yeah.
big the news got.
And commencement speeches overall, I think I think we know they're big moments, but they really are. Even if you're not in school anymore, um, just seasonally, it's the start of summer, so there's like a change of season. There's this new group of people coming into workplaces, and it is popular to get celebrities, politicians, like people do watch commencement speeches to see what's being communicated and trying to influence this new generation of people who are going into the workforce, who are starting families, who are becoming more active members of the economy. Like commencements are something worth watching and can be real timestamps and moments in time of like where we are as a society, like what themes people choose to focus on. But Kermit's for sure has, I think, definitely gotten a lot more press than I've seen lately for other commencement speakers. I feel like everyone else's, I tend to see them after the fact. Like once you know what they said and like a piece goes viral, but not
This has
before.
hype. There's a lot of hype for it.
Kermit did get hype. He even got a shout out from the governor. He got a citation for speaking. He got a
Oh,
government
like a
Maryland cite. Yeah,
recognition
like a
of.
recognition. They gave it to him at the end. It's called a citation. It's a weird.
I was gonna say that sounds negative, like they wrote
It
him up
does.
for inappropriate
I've
behavior or
received
something.
a local
Oh,
citation
congrats.
before for Pride Week, for the Pride programming I did at my school. But like, yeah, it's a weird thing called like, here's a citation for it. But it's like an acknowledgement of like at this day, at this time,
Okay.
this
It's like
thing.
Kermit the Frog Day kind of thing.
Yeah, where you get that
You
one
get the
little
keys to the city.
exactly.
Okay.
Let's talk about the speech.
Yeah, there were three themes which were teased beforehand,
They
and some
were.
content that University of Maryland put out, so that was helpful going into it. And I took a speech writing class at University of Maryland, and I think he did a wonderful job laying out what he was going to talk about.
There's a very clear thesis statement.
He set that forth in his opening remarks at the speech. So maybe he was in Com 202 with me back then. Anyway, his first point was finding your people. So the idea that I don't know what I have, but I know who I have. What is unique about you should always be shared. Everyone has a place. Appreciate them for exactly who they are. There's a special place for everyone in the show where we got a shout out to the Arts and Humanities department in particular. I was like pumping my fists in the
We
air
are
at that
valid.
point. We can do things. And your people will get you through the show regardless if it is good or bad. In short, life is not a solo act. It's a big, messy ensemble. So where did you see this theme within the book?
I think because there's several chapters about friendship,
Hmm.
um, and also like being in touch with your inner child. There's a lot of be who you are, but there is a big emphasis throughout this book that it's you're not doing things alone. And he mentions that in several chapters, but I think the fact that there's like three chapters on friendship out of like the 10 on advice, the fact that a third of the book is about friends, I think is a big piece of his overall words of wisdom through his 70
Well,
years.
and even his friend's presence in the book, he says this is not a solo act. Like, while this book is attributed to Kermit the Frog, we've mentioned the fact that many of his Muppet pals chime in throughout. So I would say that has an explicit presence throughout.
And that again paraphrasing, life is not a solo act, it's a big messy ensemble. One I think is very Muppet. They are an ensemble. They are called the Muppets. Like it's not Kermit and the Muppets. It's the Muppets. So I think that is a good call too to who they are. But that one's I think the line that's made it out the most, like on reels and stuff I've seen shared. I think that's the line from his speech that I've seen the most reshared. That life is not a solo act, it's a big, messy. There's some other adjectives he throws in there, but that's the one I've seen the most. Is there a piece that have you seen that one being shared around?
I have not, but I also immediately got on a cruise after this
That's true.
speech and was not connected to the internet for a few days and just got back 2 days ago. So I've had some people share clips of moments, but mostly one that we will get to towards the end.
And I think that's a strong theme to start off on for a graduation ceremony because it does feel very, I'm going off now. I am going into my future. But like, no, you're not going alone and don't go alone. I think he found a good way to not say over and over, like, ask for help. You're gonna need it. Like, he found a different way to talk about it, which I appreciated that, like, your people are what are going to get you through. And your people are going to make you feel comfortable and find your own place because you have other people around you that you feel safe around and respect and can be vulnerable and happy with. So I thought that was a really strong theme to start with, is being around your people. We're sitting in a giant crowd of people, so I thought that was a very good theme. Then he moves on to taking the leap, which before you leap, the title of the book. I hope we can find some connections here. Something that really stood out to me, he says, stepping on people is not the way to get ahead. And then he quotes part of Rainbow Connection, saying, quote, some people choose to believe it, but I know they are wrong. And again, kind of harping back to finding your people. And he explains, life is better when we take the leap together instead of looking for ways to get ahead that might disadvantage others or take advantage of others. Look for ways that you can all move forward together. And I thought that was really sweet. Where did you see this in the book?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, it's the title of the book here, the idea of leaping. And I believe, let me look back at the chapter list. You have one of the chapter titles, chapter 6, leaping off your lily pad. Getting started in the world, taking those big steps, which feels completely appropriate for a moment like
Hmm.
commencement.
I think also the taking the leap, I think also harkens back to those dreams part,
Yeah.
like staying true to your dreams, even though things might change, things might fail, it might be scary. But I think he also touched on the dreams part a little bit of remembering your, like what your, for the lack of having a better way to say this, welcome to the world of education, remembering your why. Um, I'm sorry, I actually used that line,
That was
but
actually the entire student commencement speech theme at my graduation. The student speaker was all about your whys, so
all about your why.
killing it.
Um, but I think he does that well of take that leap, remember your dreams. And then he concludes it all with making connections. And I think this kind of brings both of these themes together. So he says things like connections with people are going to be worth more than the materials and the professional networking. He started off this section saying, like, I know you're going to go on and you need to do networking, you need to make connections in your field to be successful, to move forward, get promoted. Achieve goals that you might have for yourself, but he reminds us that the connections with the people are what is worth more. And also maintaining those connections. The connections are going to stick with you even when you're apart. So we talked about families, or guardians, caregivers, found families as well, how that's what's going to matter the most, and that you have to maintain those connections and that they will stick with you. Again, staying connected to your dreams, remembering your why, or reevaluating that it's okay if dreams change. This is also a line that I've seen reproduced a lot in like the recaps and reels. He says, this one I had a direct quote, dreams are how we figure out where we want to go, and life is how we get there. And that's been reshared a lot.
Yeah, and that goes right into the chapter that I said I enjoyed the most, the idea of using dreams to set goals. I saw the clear parallels there. And of course, one of my favorite Muppet quotes, life's like a movie, write your own ending, is the closing chapter of this book. Well, he does, or did he say that specifically in the
He
speech?
did.
I think he
He
did. Yeah,
That's
you're
what he
right.
ended his speech with.
Yes. So he ends the book with it. He ends his speech there. It all fits together very nicely.
Yeah, and I think again, all three of these themes work really well together. And I think the making connections, he really did bring the taking the leap, like you're gonna go do new big things, but find your people at the same time. So I think he did a good job connecting those. And for me, the chapter that resonated a lot with me on the friendships, I love his advice for making friends. I like almost tabbed every single one of them because I was like, that's actually really insightful, solid advice on like making friends. And it sounds silly like putting that in a book, but I do think it's important. As you get older, friendships look different. Friendships change from when you were in school. And again, that Fridays with Fozzie's chapter, I really liked. So he talked about maintaining those connections, even if they change. connections are important to people. So I thought he did a good job of bringing all three of them together. And then he ended the speech. Were you expecting a sing-along from Rainbow Connection?
I was not expecting a full sing along. I figured maybe they'd work Rainbow Connection in there, but that is what I was alluding to earlier, the clip that I had been seeing a lot, him ending the speech with that sing along. And I will tell you, I absolutely cried. I was on the
Yes.
Brightline train heading to Fort Lauderdale ahead of my cruise the next morning. And I was like grabbing my little cocktail napkin, dabbing my eyes because I was absolutely crying on the train.
I loved it. I was expecting they would work in maybe quotes of it, like
But
thank you
once
lovers
those
and
notes hit,
dreamers.
like the
I
the
was
instrumental notes, I was like, oh God, here it comes.
Yeah. So I talked to some of my students, again, being in Maryland, a lot of students that I teach, they have siblings, family, friends who graduated. So I had quite a few students who were out um, on that day to go to commencement, and they all came back. And my one student particularly, who I'm very fortunate, I've taught all three of her and her two siblings. So it was a really nice moment. And they're another Disney family, so they know I'm a Disney person. And she tracked me down. She's like, "Did you watch it? What did you think?" But one concern I had on the YouTube showing, and it might just be because of the way the microphones were set up, is like you couldn't hear any reactions from the crowd. And I was like, I hope people are laughing. Is this being well received? Did people sing the sing along? And she showed me a video of her mom, and her sisters all sobbing in the stands and singing. And she's like, people were into it. Everyone was part of it. She said it was a great like moment, like
Good
50,000
energy.
people.
Yeah.
Maybe not that many. The stadium holds just over 50,000 people, but like thousands of people together singing Rainbow Connection. She said it was awesome. And I wish more of that came through on the feed, but the emotion still hit for
Yeah.
me, for sure.
Very fun. Well, that was such an appropriate end to the speech. And, as some things come to a close, there are new beginnings. And we certainly have both of those to talk about here, wrapping up this episode. We felt we couldn't, also have this episode without acknowledging that there are some major Muppet changes coming to the Disney park. So we wanted to take a little time here to talk about those as well. Muppet Vision 3D will be dropping its final curtain
So
on June
sad.
7th, 2025 at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Now, we did make sure that you got to experience Muppet Vision 3D one last time and that we got to do it together on March 29th, your birthday, just a couple of months ago. You basically flew down for a quick weekend trip with the main purpose of seeing Muppet Vision 3D a few times that day. So how
Yeah, so
was your
looking,
last viewing?
it was so bittersweet because I was so happy I could do it. I did go in May. So my sister and I, as soon as that announcement was made, talked to my sister and we were like, we need to go back down and see this. Now my sister threw out, she's like, we should go in June for closing weekend. And I had two big vetoes to that. One, it's the end of the school year, so it's very hard for me. That's like the last full week of school, like the weekend going to the last full week of school. So that's really hard for me. And I'm grading AP exams. Like it just was not schedule-wise feasible. And two, I was like, as cool as it can be to like be with the fandom, I was like, it's gonna be a madhouse there, I'm sure, on the last day. And I wanted to be part of it multiple times. And I figured on that last weekend, I'd be lucky to get in one time with the number of people who want to be there. And I really enjoyed that when we went. There was a very good crowd. Like the theater was decent. I wouldn't say at capacity, but it was decently full. That it was nice to have the full laughter again for all of the jokes to land. However, it wasn't so crowded that we were able to take over like the pre-show space in between. You joined us for my second watch. So we took time. We went in, they're like, oh, next show starts in like 5 minutes. And we're like, we're actually gonna wait for the next show so we could watch the full
And they
pre-show
were
from start to
totally fine
finish.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah, they were really sweet. They let me take pictures with the opening window, the box office window. You come in and they had some plushes and they're like, "Oh, you should hold Kermit for this picture." So cast members, as always, create the magic, and there were a lot of people there as Muppet fans who were saying their goodbyes, and cast members were very accommodating to that. Like, stay and take pictures. people were taking video and like no one was really saying anything. Like for our showing, we sat up front, which I've never sat in the front before.
That's fun, right?
And I don't know
It's
why I
different.
didn't do it sooner
I like
because
it.
how close you are to Sweetums. Um, when he's doing his part, a better view of the penguins. Like, I don't know why I didn't sit up front sooner because that was great.
We
So
also saw the
I love that.
extended queue,
We did. You
which
were
has
really
some
smart to
fun
think to ask that because I had no idea that was back there.
posters. Yeah, I didn't think you had seen that. They had used it more recently with the opening of Rise of the Resistance, making it the extended queue for Rise of the Resistance. So when that happened online, people were like, "Oh my gosh, there's all these posters back here that are like Muppet parody film posters, like Bride of Frankenstein instead of Bride
It's
of
kind of like how
Frankenstein."
Bugs Life had the
The
Broadway
show
parodies.
posters. Yeah, exactly. That's a great comparison. So, yeah, I was just like, I know that those are back there, and we asked a cast member at the front. I was just like, "Hey, she's never seen the posters. Can we go see the posters?" And they were super nice. She was like, "Do you want pictures? Do you have enough pictures?" Very accommodating. So shout out to all of the cast there at Muppet
I liked
Vision
the
3D.
Gonzo pipe. Like
Yeah,
there's an exterior pipe that just comes out of the building, but it's crooked. So they made that his nose and put sunglasses on it, and like you can very easily tell it's Gonzo. Just those little Muppety things that just
it
make
was
it
very nice
so Muppets.
to do that
We took a lot of
together.
pictures.
I put those on
My
our
sister,
Instagram as well. We had
my
one from
sister and I.
2015 and 2025.
I know. It's gonna be weird. Like, where are we gonna go pay homage
I
now?
know.
Well, there is a new attraction coming. But my sister and I, like, that was the whole point of the trip, which we were lucky that we got to do other things while we were there. But Pizza Rizzo is not my favorite food restaurant. Like, it's pizza, yay. There's many other things I want to eat in Walt Disney World than pizza, but we made it a point that we were gonna have lunch at Pizza Rizzo's. We walked through every room and read and looked at every picture and every billboard. Um, One cast member was really, really excited to show us the hidden Mickey and the slice of cheese in the trophy cabinet for some award that Rizzo won for his pizza.
Nice.
So that was really nice too to see. Again, cast members love this as much as we do. People were taking so many pictures. But I think it was a good timing for me, just because it would be nice to be there for the crowd. Do you have plans to go for the last weekend?
I have plans to be there on June 7th. I will not
Oh,
be attempting the very last show. I don't need
okay.
to do that. I feel like people start lining up like for that separately. I would like to see it at some point on the 7th.
Yeah,
I'm
I wish
willing
I could be there.
to wait, but that I wanted to know that that's my final viewing.
I I would like to be there if I could make it.
Yeah.
If it was feasible. I am glad though that I did have a final showing where I got to see it multiple times and like really comb through it because I do feel like that last day
Oh yeah,
you're not gonna get to like stand there and
I'm
soak it
glad that
in.
I was there for that moment with you, like
Well,
to get those
yeah.
pictures. Like I'm not gonna ask to see the extended queue again. But it was
But to
nice
take it in
to do that
slowly,
with
that
you.
was
Yes.
nice.
And then just be like, all right, this is it. This
But
is
I
my
was
last
saving all of my
time.
pictures for June 7th. I totally plan to wear my Muppet shirt that day. Um, it's gonna be even from Maryland, be a sad day for Muppet 3 Vision 3D to close.
Yeah.
I'm very sad. Um, what are your hopes for the attraction? Because when that dropped, everyone focused on I'm going to paraphrase, but there was a vague line where Disney said something like, "We are looking into options to best preserve
Yes.
Muppet Vision 3D." And so there's all of these armchair imagineering things that people want from a future for Muppet Vision. What would be your hopes for the attraction?
I mean, my ideal situation is they find somewhere else to put it at some point in a live capacity. At minimum, if they're like, we're gonna put it on Disney Plus, sure, I'd love to be able to revisit the film from time to time, but I'm here for the cheap 3D tricks,
Yeah.
so I'd love to keep those
And for Bean
available
Bunny
somewhere.
and for
Yes.
the number of people
They're
that I
bolted to
saw.
the seats. They're gonna be unbolted from the
Oh
seats.
my God.
Like,
First time Statler and Waldorf are
what are
gonna
they gonna
move.
do? Yeah.
The number of people And I don't know if it's because enough Muppet fans were in the audience, but like I know to turn around to see Swedish Chef multiple times. And I saw other people like looking at me like, why is she turning around? And then they turn around and I would like kind of see them jerk a little bit, like and surprised, like, oh, there's like stuff happening back there.
We were front row influencers because there's nobody in front of us. So you and I were turning around, and then yeah, people are like, "What are they looking at?" And then like Swedish Chef's just doing his fun stuff. So yeah, I'm okay if they put it on Disney Plus or some format for us to just view in general, but ideally would like to have all of the
Yeah.
effects because it's really Muppet Vision 4D if you think about it.
It is. It is 4D. My ideal, I would hope, and a lot of people have reiterated this is by no means an original thought, that maybe once the Villains Land opens in Magic Kingdom, that the Villains Show, which recently opened in the old Racing Academy with Lightning McQueen, where that villain show is now, is going to be
Yeah.
adjacent to the new Muppet attraction.
No, that would make
That
sense
like this would
to
make so much sense to turn this entire
a
area
new
into
Muppet
Muppet Courtyard.
courtyard. Yeah.
Move Pizza Rizzo or have a whole new restaurant. Like you can really make this an immersed Muppets
Move the
space.
fountain because I really like the
I
fountain.
know. So I would hope maybe after, Villains gets people excited for the new park land in Magic Kingdom, maybe we'll find a new place for that. To me that makes sense. But my other alternative, I think Disney Springs could use a free attraction. Put it in Disney Springs and give
Where are
us
you
a
putting
fountain
it?
there. I don't know. I'm just hopes like at somewhere, put it somewhere, or give us, hear me out, this is really outrageous, a new hotel that is Muppets.
I'd be
Make it the
down for
Happiness
that.
Hotel.
I would hope we get better service than
I
at
mean, better
the
service and amenities
Happiness
and,
Hotel.
electrical wiring and plumbing, but make us a Muppet hotel. Give us a full Muppet experience, and then
That'd be
maybe
cute.
it's a free attraction over there.
Well, we are certainly getting an attraction with Rock and Roller Coaster announced to get a makeover with the Electric Mayhem. No exact timing on that, but fully announced as part of the closure announcement for Muppet Vision. What are you most looking forward to for this redesign?
I I'm so excited. I thought this was such a great move. And it's not because I don't enjoy Aerosmith. I have grown up on classic rock. I think it's super fun, but I do think it's time for a change. I don't know how many people or younger generations are connecting to it, but with the direction that Disney's Hollywood Studios is going, using IP so forward in a lot of their attractions, I think this is going to work really well. And the Muppets have been needing a place. I do think they still need to come back with Muppets in Liberty Square. I thought that was one of the perfect uses for them in the park, but I'm glad to see that they're not going away completely. And I think through music, like how much do people love the Muppets because of the song Rainbow Connection, because of the Electric Mayhem. I think through music is a good place to bring the Muppets in. And I'm very excited to see what they do with it. I'm excited to see what the story is going to be. What are we racing through? Are we in London? I'm assuming not because we're in California, but like where are we going? Are they I'm interested to see this.
Yeah, I'm curious to see just how much the attraction will change because I think you could feasibly have the same plot and just switch out the
This
pre-show
is very
and the
true.
onboard audio. I'd like to see maybe an update to the interior of that attraction. You do
Yeah.
move very quickly through. I could see them conceivably just be like, yeah, you're still going through the giant donut. Like we don't need to change that. But it'd be nice to see that get a little update and
I
love.
think I like the soundstage instead of it being a screen. Since they are Muppets, I think you could easily make them awesome animatronics.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That having an actual physical interaction with the Electro Mayhem, I think would be really cool.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I love that idea.
So I'd like to see some animatronics maybe in that pre-show. Music-wise, I am really curious. And like now that there's multiple like how with Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout as well as Cosmic Rewind, it's all about what song did you get. I think they're going to have a lot of fun with giving us a playlist of what songs are going to be on this attraction.
That's how the Aerosmith track
Yeah,
is
Aerosmith's like
too.
that too.
Yeah,
Like I think that's a cool thing that they can keep doing. But I think
right.
more so since Guardians, and maybe it's because the advent of social media that to me more people are like, "What song did you get? I hope
Well,
I
and
get this song."
Guardians, the Mission Breakout and Cosmic Rewind both are dedicated to one song, whereas I'd say the Aerosmith tracks are more playlists. Like it's a mashup, but I think there are like three or four separate mashups. But you're always going to hear more than one Aerosmith song in the 90 seconds that you spend in that attraction.
Is there any is there any song you particularly hope to hear?
I mean, I don't know unless they do like a remix or something of Rainbow Connection. I don't know that that would make sense. You do have the Disney Plus series, The Muppets Mayhem, which produced an actual soundtrack from Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, and that's really my understanding of the main feature of this
Yeah,
ride. I do own the soundtrack on vinyl record because they put it out last year. You gotta have Can You Picture that from the original
that's the song I want
Muppet
the most,
film.
is
But
Can You Picture
they
That?
did some good tracks on that album. So I think it'd be make the most sense to kind of keep the Aerosmith model of not a single track, but like a little mashup of a few
That could
different
be fun.
tracks.
It would be interesting to hear, like since they did have their entry into like the Haunted Mansion, and we saw with Country Bears, the Country Bears are now singing Disney songs in their genre and their take on those Disney songs. I'd be interested to see if they bring Disney songs in or park songs in with the Electric Mayhem in this as well.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting consideration I hadn't thought of. Only time will tell, and I look forward to finding out. So, this has been a very fun recap of many different Muppet things, all under the guise of Kermit the Frog's Before You Leap. But of course, as we wrap up, we like to leave you with recommendations. We would certainly recommend the Muppet Show, all of the Muppet films, and content available on Disney Plus. But we do have some other specific resources that we'd love to recommend. Disney Plus is a treasure trove for sure, and you can't go wrong with any of the content on that Muppets tab. However, I do want to take a moment here to give a shout out to PBS. While it's not the typical type of resource that we like to leave you with here on the show, it is a vital resource to many families. I would say you and I were raised on content like Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, Reading Rainbow, and Arthur. It's a big part of the Muppets history there. So
For sure.
nearly every episode of those shows ended citing that that content was brought to you by viewers like you. So we would encourage you to continue to support their mission by visiting pbs.org/viewers dash like dash me. We will link that in the show notes, but just wanted to give them a little plug here.
Yeah, and I also want to encourage people to also support other free educational institutions like the Smithsonian Institute. Smithsonian is home to many Muppet and Sesame Street puppets and memorabilia, and that's been one of my favorite things to see. Everyone got really excited with the new American History Museum makeover a few years ago that, like the Ruby slippers, the Fozzie's jacket, like that those big pop culture icons had a much better display room than they had before. I was all in for the Muppets because there was always a Muppet on display and it was rotating which Muppet was out. And I was like, they can put more out, and they did. So there's a lot of Muppet stuff in the American Smithsonian. And even if you don't have a chance to come to DC, or if that's just not in your itinerary currently, it is a free institution and they do have a lot of online resources. So I linked one in our show notes that you can look at the different artifacts they have, click on it, and it will give you like viewing a digital library or digital museum exhibit, a lot of different pictures of each artifact, puppet, memorabilia, and information about it and where it comes from and how old it is, including the original Sam and Friends is in the Smithsonian. I have seen those on display, and that was very, very cool to see. So I would encourage people to also check out that museum and their online resources as well. Links to these resources are in our show notes, but of course, we have to plug our own show that we had an episode 53 was our author interview with Brian J. Jones about Jim Henson, the biography. So if you want to go back and have more Muppet content from us, go back to episode 53 and give that a listen.
Yes, plenty to keep you busy until our next episode, in which we will have something else to celebrate. The Muppets aren't the only members of the Disney family celebrating 70 years in 2025. The Disneyland 70th anniversary is this July, and Disneyland is celebrating all year long. In tandem with this celebration, our annual summer reading series theme for 2025 will be the Celebratory Summer Series, featuring Disneyland texts to commemorate this magical milestone. Our series will include the following 3 books, and we hope you will read along with us then. In June, we will do The 55ers, The Pioneers Who Settled Disneyland by Dave Coing. In July, Presenting Disneyland, Forgotten Photographs from Opening Day by Aaron Goldberg, foreword by Bob Gurr. And in August, The Happiest Place on Earth, The Incredible Story of Walt Disney's Disneyland by Don Hahn and Christopher Merritt, foreword by Bob Iger. In the meantime, you can keep up with Book of the Mouse Club on Instagram at Book of the Mouse. Email us with comments or ideas to bookofthemouseclub@gmail.com. Please be sure to leave us a review wherever you listen so others can find our podcast to read and listen along with us. You can keep up with me, Courtney, on Instagram at Great Gutsby.
And me, Emily, on Instagram at Emily_McD.
All right, Emily, what do you have for our closing quote this time?
So I thought I would close today's episode with Kermit's closing quote to his commencement speech, which is also from the finale song of the original Muppet movie. We alluded to it earlier, but I'm going to tweak a word or two like he did for the commencement to better fit our audience and the theme of graduation. So quote, "Life's like a movie, write your own ending, keep believing, keep pretending, and you are doing what you set out to do." So congratulations to the class of 2025. We are certainly proud of all of you and wish you the best. Continue to be lovers and dreamers who chase rainbows.
Couldn't think of a better one myself. Wonderful choice. Bye-bye.
Until next time.
Book of the Mouse Club has no affiliation with the Walt Disney Company. The views and opinions expressed by hosts and participants are theirs and theirs alone. They do not represent the organizations or companies they happen to work for.